Well, hello. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Keeping It Real with America's Supermom. I'm excited to be here with you guys today. Uh, it's just been crazy. I am trying to stay calm, but so many things are going on in the background. I am America's Supermom, so I am so grateful for you to spend some time with me. It is Wednesday, and this week has been just event packed. For many of you who may be parents, you understand what it's like at the end of the school year. You know, you've got this award ceremony and that award ceremony. All my kids go to different schools. Well, a couple of them share the same school, but they're in different grades. So then their award ceremonies a different time, a different day. So just trying to coordinate it all. But it really is a blessing because today has been a great one. I was able to attend a sixth grade graduation, and our son made the AB honor roll for the school year. And in the background, while that's going on, my son and his wife were at the hospital because my daughter in law is having contractions. So she actually was due May 21st. So we are just anticipating the arrival of our first granddaughter. We already have three grandsons. So this is going to be our first granddaughter. So we're really excited about that, but no baby yet. They are still checking her. The contractions are kind of far apart still. So they're debating on if she's going to stay at the hospital or go home and come back. So that's kind of what's going on in the background. But we are here now and we have a guest today. I actually have had the pleasure of meeting him through social media. So I think we were in a couple of rooms together on Clubhouse, and I saw him do an Instagram interview with someone. And I reached out and I was like, hey, he's talking my language. I can't even remember what the episode is about. But then I find out just yesterday that we both share a same business venture that we're doing in the same company. So I'm excited to get into a great conversation with my guest today, Christopher Williams. And he also is going to talk to us about imposter syndrome. So, many people that are conducting business as we navigate through these times with this pandemic, we have to shift jobs or, change things in our dynamics in order to kind of survive through this new norm. I know that a lot with my kids. I was so impressed with a lot of the awards that they received because it just is not the same. There's so many different changes that they had to go through for these past couple years. So I was really excited to see their ability to persevere and keep on in spite of that. So, but many of us struggle with this imposter syndrome. And I have my own opinion about that, which we'll get into with our conversation. But just want to remind everybody to grab a pen and paper, take some notes. Yeah, you can listen to the replay, you can share it, whatever, but there's nothing like really getting that information firsthand and kind of masterminding. That's what I call it in real time so that you can really start growing and think of ways that you can implement some of these principles and ideas immediately. So I am really excited to have Christopher Williams here with us today. He has arrived, so I am going to add him to the show. Hey.
How are you, America's Supermom? You have no idea. I am like, man, I am appreciative to be with you today and on your platform.
Oh, well, I am so glad to have you because, I just keep getting more and more nuggets of wisdom from everything that I see you doing. So I am excited to have you here so you could share with my audience some of these great principles and insights that you have. So before we get into our conversation, though, I want you to just do an introduction, let everybody know how awesome you are.
Well, but before I do that, if I may, I want to I want to say to those who are impacted directly by yesterday's events,
Oh, yes.
and to every mother out there,
Mm.
it was interesting yesterday having some conversations with people, and there's nothing like a mother's love, but there's also nothing like a mother's fear.
Yeah.
And I think for most mothers, right, yesterday that was a difficult time. So I want to say to every
Mhm.
mother out there, uh, you know, we see you, we care about you, and we want you to know that like um that was this is going to be a tough moment. And I think I think in even in neighborhoods, right, if you see a mother wherever you are right now, like please make sure that you like show them that you see them, let them know
Mhm.
that you care,
Mhm.
let them know that like you know that they're here. um it was just tragic yesterday. It was just very, very
Yeah.
tragic. um So anyway, my name is Chris Williams. I am the president and host of the World According to Chris podcast, where I help
Mm.
successfully discontent corporate professionals grow their side businesses successfully.
Mm.
And been doing that now for the last 4.5 years. My wife, beautiful wife, Dr. Tammara Williams, and I have two boys in high school. One just graduated high school Saturday.
Congratulations.
Thank you. He graduated from Oak Ridge Military Academy. And then also my youngest, Josiah, who's graduating next year. So we've got going back to back. So that's great. My wife also owns a strategic advising firm.
Mhm.
And so she helps, corporations like Microsoft, Google, and others with
Mm.
corporate partnerships and collaborations as well. We're a serial entrepreneur family. And I also care about my own health and wellness. I've got my own personal story of my own journeys of things that I've had to do, losing 65 pounds in a year and a half in my wellness journey, almost dying from an asthma attack in my sleep prior to that, which woke me up to, I got to do something now. We can get into all that later. But I'm just a guy who cares about his community. I care about people. And I like making sure that people really understand that at the end of the day, we all are connected. And I think
Mhm.
now more than ever, while we complain about, you know, the use of technology and so much of it, I think it's a great thing that allows us to be able to stay connected. Because I can text you and go, "Hey, how are you doing today?" Right? And I can be
Yes.
a random stranger and I can give you some hope and some love. And so I think if we start using technology in different ways, it'll definitely turn the pan out to be the right way, the right thing for everybody.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, you mentioned the events that happened yesterday. And for those of us that may be watching, what advice would you give them? Because, it is a situation to where, these things come front and center. We have these platforms where we are very, we're in the limelight talking about different issues and things. And so, there's that desire to feel like, what can I do? Because we can be overwhelmed with that, feeling like, well, I have a platform. How am I supposed to address this or different things like that? So, for many people, moms, dads, other people that are teachers, what advice would you give them, that they can actually implement to kind of help them feel that they are being part of the solution?
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up because I think a lot of times, like today is one of those days where some people don't know what to do right now, right? Like they go to
Mhm.
work and they don't know how to feel, or they go into a meeting, right? They're
Mhm.
walking into a meeting right now and they're like, but yesterday just happened. So do
Mhm.
I just walk into this meeting and act like yesterday didn't happen, right?
Mhm.
Um, some people don't know that maybe the person that you're sitting in a meeting with might have a cousin or a family member who
Mhm.
lives in that area, right? And maybe
Mhm.
all night you were on the phone with it. So I think one of the things
Mhm.
we can first do is address the conversation openly, right?
Mhm.
Like give space and oxygen in that meeting. Just, I
Mhm.
asked for the time, to be able to just address that before I introduce myself. Like give people that opportunity. And I honestly don't care if it's only 5 minutes, right?
Right.
But you got to, I think one of the things we're seeing as far as a shift in like corporations and in people's offices today is this shift to human understanding, right? In
Mhm.
human connections, right? I was doing
Mhm.
a training for some HR execs, and I reminded them that the title of the department that you all work under is called Human Resources.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, we've made the human the resource instead of realizing humans use resources.
Right.
Right? We're not a
Mm.
commodity. We're not this thing it's not a widget that you push to make something go, right?
Mhm.
Like we're humans. We have emotions, we
Mhm.
have feelings. And so I think one of the best things you can do if you're in a meeting right now, and I don't care if you're the manager, I don't care if you just started working there 2 weeks ago or somewhere in between, or you're the
Mhm.
CEO, whatever
Mhm.
meeting you walk into today, you need to walk in and let the moment breathe.
Yeah.
Don't make your agenda bigger than the humanity.
Wow, I love that. Because it's interesting. I had a conversation with my children. We went to my son's 6th grade celebration, and it's just
Mm,
the mindset of even talking to him about it. And just so they can have compassion. I think there are times when we do have to move on, but sometimes
mhm.
that element of desensitizing people
100%.
happens because we're so busy saying, well, what's the next thing? But I
Yeah.
love what you said about giving space. And I just wanted to address that because so many people, we get caught into a space where we do have a microphone in our hand.
Mhm.
And, people want to hear what our opinion is about it or things like that. So just being able to kind of speak to other people who
Yeah.
may not have even been conscious about it, but then all of a sudden they have to speak on it. And what did they say? So I appreciate you sharing that. That was phenomenal.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
100%.
Now, so I'm intrigued about weight loss to 65 pounds. I'm like, I think I'm always on a health journey. It's like, hey, COVID, I have been eating everything that is in my refrigerator and pantry and everything else. Okay. So, talk to us about this journey, about your wake up call, because I think, whatever it is that kind of gets us to the state where we're paying attention, we're
Yeah.
not being mindless anymore. We start being
Mhm.
intentional. I think that's something to really recognize because many of us are in that state. It may not be with the weight. It could be just with the way we talk to ourselves. It could
Yeah.
be, watching too much TV and, life is happening around you. So talk to us about that journey.
Yeah. I kind of liken it to most people are walking through life, uh, and you need a car crash to wake you up. You need something sometimes in life to force you to go, what am I doing? And how long have I been doing it? Right. So for me, I'll share my story. Um, I have battled asthma all of my life. I was born with it as a child. I have acute asthma. So when I was a child, I used to wear the Red Cross wristband back in the day. I grew up in Gainesville, Florida. Now, I want you to understand something. I grew up in Gainesville, Florida, with a mother who smoked, around moss trees and 100% humidity all the time. And I wanted to play sports. Yeah, not a good combination, right? So, when I would go to the hospital, Chris never waited in a waiting room. I was straight to ICU. There was no waiting. In fact, my mother used to work in Shands Hospital, which is on the University of Florida's campus, one of the top research hospitals. It's where they made, Gatorade and all these other things, and all this type of
Mhm.
research. Well, my mother worked in accounts payable, and she worked on the 10th floor. The emergency room
Mhm.
was the first floor through the 4th floor. I was
Mhm.
in that hospital so much as a child, they would just call up to the floor and say, your son's back.
Wow.
It was I can remember times of prednisone. Back then they had this product called Slow Bid, which was a product they were giving young kids at that time. I think I was the test dummy for all types of stuff.
Mm.
Every inhaler, for those of you who knows asthmatics pretty well, every inhaler has about 200 puffs in it. I
Mhm.
was going through 3 inhalers a month.
Wow.
Mine was pretty bad. So as when I got older, it wasn't as bad, but my attacks were as bad, right? Like meaning I didn't go to
Mm.
the hospital often, but when I did, it was always like the worst. So 2016, my wife and I, at that time we were dating, we come home from church.
Mhm.
And my wife says, "Hey, you know what? I'm gonna go run some errands with the boys." And I was doing my favorite thing I like to do, which was clean. So that's kind of my therapy. So I was cleaning the house and I took a nap. And unfortunately, I was having a full blown asthma attack in my sleep. Thank God I woke up. But when I woke up in a panic. And I don't know if you've ever. So like when I was a kid,
Yeah.
my mother would never even let my door be closed because she needed to hear me breathing. Right.
Right.
So nobody's at home. I wake up in this panic. I tried my inhaler, that wasn't working. And if you know anybody who's ever had asthma, if you labor too long, you're starting to get weaker because your brain, the only thing it really wants to do is survive. So it will shut everything else down so that the brain can live. Right. That's the way your body is built. Well, I could feel myself getting weaker. I tried my inhaler, that didn't work. Try my nebulizer, that didn't work. Nobody's at home. And I'm like, what do I do? Well, I did what my wife would call the next smartest dumb thing I did. I drove myself to the hospital. Yeah. She still's
Wow.
not happy about it. But I drove myself to the hospital. I walked in, pulled into the emergency room, left the car, just I'm walking. They could tell as soon as I got in, like, this guy's not well. Took me
Mhm.
to the back. Um, Unfortunately, they're always trying to ask you questions. I couldn't talk. Like I couldn't get anything
Mhm.
out. And I just kept saying,
Mhm.
I need, I'm trying to tell them, hey, I need relief. Like I can't breathe. Unfortunately, I
Mhm.
passed out. By the time they
Mm.
got a blood gas and they did my oxygen, so typically with an asthmatic, you need to see where their oxygen level is inside of their blood, because if they're not flowing any oxygen, they could literally die. Well, I
Mm.
had zero oxygen in my blood by the time I got to the hospital. So to
Wow.
give you some context, I only lived like maybe 10 minutes away from the hospital. So that fast,
Wow.
I was in a bad state. So I wake up. Now I gotta say, thank God for the nurse who was smart enough to go to my car. She dialed the last phone numbers I had talked to. I talked to my wife while she was out running errands before I took my nap. So of
Mm.
course, could you imagine my wife's thinking, right? She's thinking it's me calling her, but then there's this chick on the other line going, "Hey,
Mhm.
I'm calling from Presbyterian, and you need to get to the hospital." Right?
Mhm.
That's not a fun phone call.
Yeah.
And when I woke up hours later, my wife says that the nurse grabbed her hand and just said, "Hey, listen, we almost lost him." So apparently, they got me stabilized. I woke
Mhm.
up in the hospital. I stayed there for like a week and a half, and I remember getting out, and a friend of my wife's, happened to reach out and said, "Hey, have y'all ever thought about like what y'all use to clean your house with?" And I had never thought about it because I grew up in a house where grandma used a cap full of bleach in the water when the kids would do the dishes
Mhm.
to help out. Right? Like I grew up on all toxic type of chemicals, and then eventually it was like, okay, I learned some new things, got educated, and it was like, wait a second, I had no idea I was living this bad in my upper respiratory because I was doing it to myself. I'm buying the bad stuff and using it in my house, thinking
Mhm.
long as it's clean, I'm good. And that wasn't the case at all. I was actually doing more damage than good. Most people don't realize your skin is your largest organ. If you don't
Mhm.
take care of it over time, it will break down, right?
Mhm.
So I just started
Mhm.
learning and then, started teaching other people. And, now today we teach hundreds of people around the country how to do the same thing. Uh, uh, I do a lot, just around the country around that. But it taught me a lot of things. Like I learned a lot, and as a family, to be able to, one, it sucked for my children to see me that way, but then two, it's better now because my sons see me thriving. My sons see me actually
Mhm.
taking the hard thing that I learned and teaching other people. You don't have to live like that. And so we teach hundreds
Yeah.
of people around the country. We do wellness education, and it's been amazing. My 65-pound journey was just a decision.
Mm.
I remember looking at our wedding photos and I was like, that suit is really tight. And it wasn't because it was fitted. It's just tight. And I just
Yeah.
remember like I just said, listen, I got to do something different. We cut our Y membership. I I found a personal trainer through my sister-in-law.
Mhm.
Went to meet him one time, and I learned so much about myself going
Mhm.
through a year and a half process of losing weight with him. The things that he had me do, the level of accountability, I learned a lot. I'll give you a perfect example
Mhm.
of something that I learned that might resonate with your audience who's trying to lose weight.
Mhm.
As a child, I grew up the youngest of 6 boys, no girls in the house, with a single mother.
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
You had to fight for everything.
Mhm.
If you late to the table, you get left, right? You know that world. You
Yeah.
got 15, right?
Right.
So,
I was an
for
only
one,
child, so yeah, I'm
yeah,
seeing it
there
from a
you go.
different perspective. Yeah.
So for me, my biggest thing was like, okay, I saw that and I had to survive. Well, what I learned, here I am 30 some odd years later going through
Mhm.
this thing and working out with my trainer. I had to have some real self-awareness because it was like, wait a second, Chris, you're still eating like you're trying to survive.
Mm.
You still gorge.
Mhm.
Dude, you have a job now. Like you're okay. Like you don't have to eat that way anymore. Right?
Yeah.
I learned that through this journey. I was still using a poverty mentality when it
Yeah.
came to the way I ate.
Mhm. Now
That's like,
this is a good point about poverty mentality. Now, for
mhm,
people who are listening, explaining that because, I kinda had that same mindset, but
yeah,
I was a high performer. So, I just felt like if I didn't do it, it wasn't gonna get done. So, to me, it was,
yeah,
a feeling of scarcity. I couldn't trust anybody. I
100%.
had to do it and, grabbing everything and keeping it. So,
Mhm.
explain your thought about that because other people, they're not registering what is a poverty mindset?
So I grew up in poor conditions. We didn't have everything. We didn't have a lot. My mother never went
Mhm,
to a basketball or a track and field event, not because she didn't want to be there. My mother worked
mhm,
9 to 5, 6 to 11, and still didn't have enough money.
mm,
So it wasn't about like, oh, we just were, you know, poor money management. No, we just didn't have anything, right?
mhm, mhm,
So the poor mentality is we think, like my wife says this all the time, and it's so true. Sometimes we think being on top of the bottom is cool.
mm.
And so you end up growing up thinking, well, as long as the people that I grew up around see me, whatever version of winning that is, I got a new car, but my interest rate is over 30%.
Right.
Whatever, right? Like poverty mentality just means either for us in my world, it was we hoarded everything.
Mhm,
We didn't fight for better because we just wanted to maintain whatever it was we had, right?
mhm,
We made cheap and we made cheap a real thing, right? As
mhm.
long as it's cheap, it's good. That's not always
Mm,
true, right?
right.
So, and I'm saying for everything, relationships, people, like cheap
Amen.
ain't always better.
Amen. Amen.
So,
You
but what
get
we
what you
do
pay
is with
for is what
poverty
I say.
mentality, that's right. And here's what I learned about myself with poverty mentality. You know what it did?
Mm,
It taught me never to challenge my own default beliefs.
mm.
That's what it
That's
did to
good.
me. So when I
That
got older and I got around people who were actually productive in their life, who actually made money, who
mhm,
actually had wholesome families, whose families actually sat at the dinner table, who actually
mhm,
understood conflict resolution. Oh, that
mhm,
was a different game because I wasn't used to
mhm,
that. I
mhm,
wasn't, I didn't understand those dynamics. I remember my first mentor, I go to his house one time. I'm like in my freshman year in college, and I go sit. He invited me over for dinner on a Sunday after church one
mhm,
day. I'm like, okay,
mhm,
cool. I grabbed my plate and I went and sat in front of the TV. His family's
mhm.
at the table. They're looking at me like, what is wrong with this kid? And I'm like, what is wrong with y'all? Like the game on, right?
Right.
That's not what they did in their house.
Mhm.
So it's this idea of like you never challenge yourself, and anybody who challenges you, you think they're wrong. You think they're cheating
Exactly.
on you. You think they don't want the best for you, and you never stop to ask yourself, is it possible? And this is what I always ask people: is it
Mhm.
possible that maybe the default belief that you have about that thing could be off? Just, is it
Mm.
possible?
Mhm.
And if you open yourself up to challenging yourself and letting others challenge you as well, you might just find yourself far from what your comfort really is. But that's only because
Mhm.
you're willing to grab the hand of somebody who is willing to go, you're bigger than that. You're better than that. You don't have to spend
Mhm.
money that way. You don't have to eat that
Mhm.
way. You're not
Mhm.
always hungry, Chris.
I know, that's
Like,
right.
just
Yeah.
just basic stuff, right? Like, and so
Yeah.
it taught me a lot. Like, that journey for me was like, it just, losing the weight wasn't just about losing the weight. It was, I
Mhm.
changed, right? Like,
Yeah.
I really changed because I realized there was so much about me that was like, why do you do that? Why do you think
Yeah.
that that's okay to, like, my trainer said to me one time, he said, Chris, coming to work out with me is like getting a big check. He said, you know how you feel on payday? You feel really good, right? You feel
Mhm.
awesome when you get paid, right?
Mhm.
He's like, but then you walk right out of here and go to Vegas and blow your whole check and
Mm.
expect your bills to be paid, your car note to be paid, your mortgage to be paid, all of that. You expect all them things to still get paid, but you just blew your check. He's like, Chris, stop
Mm.
blowing your check of the workout that you just got by going and eating a bunch of garbage. It doesn't make
Mhm.
sense. He was like, I can't work with junk. And I had to wake up. He challenged me. And I just ask people, like, when somebody's challenging you, don't take it as an offense or don't get defensive.
Mhm.
Start having more self-awareness and going, hmm, what can I learn from what they're saying right now?
I love that. And,
Because it might
my
change
thing,
your life. I know it did for me.
it's so true, and I mean, if it wasn't working, with what I've been doing, when am I gonna wake up and say, because I talk to my kids about this all the time. They'll argue a point, and I'm like, "Okay, but how is that working for you?" Okay, you might want to be right with the argument, but you're not getting the results you want. So is it working? you know, but we just kind
Yeah.
of have this thing, and that's another thing about limiting beliefs, feeling like,
Mhm.
argumentative. Whoever
Yeah.
has the last word is the one that wins. And at the end of the day, you still over here in the same situation and it's not getting any better, but a quote unquote, you won the argument.
Yeah.
So that is so good. So you brought up a lot of good things that a lot of people can really think about when it comes to weight loss. We think, oh, it's just fitting into another size, but it's also the mindset and the beliefs
Mhm.
and everything that go along with that former person that you were. So I love that you brought that up. So let's fast forward. I'm like, we are getting close to the end of the time.
Oh, I've
Um,
got time. You're good.
Okay. So let's go to the imposter syndrome,
Mhm.
and for a lot of people who are in business right now, they may be starting at the bottom of a new industry because of the pandemic. They have to have to pivot or reinvent themselves. Some people are challenged with this quote unquote mentality. So,
Mhm.
what are some tools or strategies that you could share for people in that position?
Yeah, so let's make sure that we define imposter syndrome. Webster calls it uh, doubting your abilities and feeling like you're a fraud. And
Mhm,
typically, this happens with people who achieve high achievers like yourself, right?
mhm, mhm.
So I consider moms high achievers because how moms get all of that stuff done is just a miracle, right? All your kids could walk in the kitchen and go, "Mom, ain't nothing to eat," and then all of a sudden you come out with a whole spread, and they like, "How'd she do that?" Because I didn't see that, right? Mamas just see different, right?
They
So
just don't work, okay? They don't work when it comes to cooking. That's what the
that's
difference.
right. So what I would say with those who struggle with imposter syndrome is um it's easy to lie to ourselves because a lot of times we only lie because we're afraid.
Mm,
It's easy to lie to yourself because that means I don't have to change. It's easy to lie to myself and other people because there's something I don't want you to know.
Mm.
You know, I coach a lot of executive coaches, and you know one thing I found? There's a couple of buckets of people that I found coaching executives.
Mhm.
There are the people who are like ultra alphas, male and female.
Mhm.
And if I'm awake, I'm getting it done, right? No matter what.
Mhm.
There are another group of people though that fall into this imposter syndrome where because of their fear of being found out that they're not as good as whatever they told themselves they should be or the
Mhm.
title says they should be, they
Mhm.
push their fears off on the people who directly report to them. And they're going to
Mm.
make them be much better so that I can show up well when I get in front of my peers. So
Mm.
you, Miss America Supermom, are going to get this presentation done. I want it by 3 on my desk, and it needs to be right. Because what I'm
Mm.
really afraid of is when I walk into the room with my peers, not being able to sound and look the part since I have this job in this role. And you know, one of the things with imposter syndrome is that today, right now, in this climate, as of this interview, most people are going to work in survival mode.
Mm.
So imposter
Mhm.
syndrome is really real
Mhm.
because we're worried. What if they find out I'm not that good? What if they
Mm.
find out I really don't know everything? Because the truth of the culture in most corporate Americas is I'm supposed to know it all because I got the title and
Mhm.
I got I got the team and I got people reporting to me and all this other stuff. And the interesting thing is it cannot be far from the truth as it is, because it's actually the opposite. When you lead people, your job is to lead strength
Mhm.
and develop others. So the mere fact that you have the title doesn't mean that uh you know everything. It
Mhm.
means I'm willing to accept what I don't know and surround myself with the right kind of people so that we can work the get the work done together.
Amen.
Most people operate in a stance of, well, if I got the title, if it's up to me, it's to be me, using it the reverse
Mhm.
way, right? Not the good
Right.
intention, but the bad intention. So I'm gonna push
Mhm.
all of my fears and force you down a hole. And then here's the way I always tell executive leaders: I can find out how good you are as a leader. I'll just go talk to your people.
Right.
I don't have to talk to you to find out if you're a good leader. I can go
So
ask
true.
everybody who reports to you how you treat them. That will tell
Yeah.
me everything I need to know about imposter syndrome. And thus, it's a trickle down effect. So goes the leader,
Mhm.
so goes their people, and so goes the people that talk to them, and so on and so
Mhm.
forth. And then you got 300 people in a department all running scared
Yeah.
because the
Mhm.
leader won't just say, hey, y'all, you know what? I suck at PowerPoint. Could
Right.
y'all help me?
It's so
hey,
true.
hey, I'm not that good, y'all. Could
Mhm.
somebody help me out? Hey, you know what,
Right.
y'all? I don't know what to do in this next meeting. Could 4 or 5 of
Mhm.
y'all help me figure out a game plan so when I go into
Mhm.
this meeting, we're good? See, that's the conversation a lot of high level people are afraid to have
So true.
because
Yeah.
you've told yourself a lie. And
Mhm.
here's the interesting part: imposter syndrome is all up here.
It's so true.
It doesn't exist outside of you.
So true. Yeah.
You
I
you
mean,
got a title on your desk or wherever, right?
mhm.
And you're creating this story about how you're supposed to show up at work.
Mhm.
Or you're looking at the 4.8 million people who walked away from their job last month, and you're sitting here thinking, uh-oh, I better, or people getting laid off at this area, you're talking to your neighbor and this
Mhm.
person. So you're making stories up about yourself.
So true.
And
It's
one of the
true.
greatest things you can ever do is be vulnerable.
Yeah.
I know that doesn't sound great in corporate America. Trust me, I know.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I will tell you, it lowers the defenses of everybody around you if you'll
Mhm.
just be honest.
Mhm. So true.
Because I know for me, I like to coach people to understand that how you show up at work is a reflection of probably how you operate at home as well. So as a husband, I don't want my wife to see that maybe I'm not as good as I say I am. I'm not. I'm good out in public, but I might not have everything together. Like yesterday, this is so funny. This literally happened in my house. So we had a our house is 13 years old. Our AC unit upstairs needs to be replaced. Like it's going on the fritz, right? Well, I haven't replaced the filters in the house in a while because we've been so busy running around and everything else. Filters all black, looking terrible, right?
Right.
And initially, so my wife sent me a text and she's like, "Hey, babe, this wasn't done. So if I need to put this back on my calendar, then I will. But we didn't get this done, and the guy's here, and our thing is out, and we got to, pay all this money." And initially, I wanted to take issue with it.
Right.
Because in my mind, I done told myself a story about how I'm supposed to have it all together.
Right.
Truthfully, you don't remember everything.
So true.
You don't remember everything. So quit making up stories in your mind. If everybody can visualize this for a second. If you took everything that you believe about yourself or about your job and put it on a piece of paper and then drew a big box around it, and then you could write 3 letters because the 3 letters represent your defense. EGO.
Ego.
Your ego is defending all of that.
So true. Yeah. Someone said that it's edging God out. That's the acronym for ego.
Every day.
Yeah.
You leave no room. See, that's why you got to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
God gave us all gifts, talents, and abilities. But the superpower to those gifts, talent, and abilities is that margin of things that you cannot do by yourself. That's where God exists. That's where vulnerability exists. That's where your team executives and you managers and those of you listening could actually benefit from the people around you. Because if you're vulnerable to say, "Hey, I don't know how to do something," who's willing to help? Watch how many hands go up.
Yeah. So true. And, I tell people this all the time as well, because, people may put you on a pedestal, but you don't have to stay there. And when you're vulnerable, it's relatable. I could get on here and talk about, all the good things that are happening, but it just separates me from the people even more because that is not their reality. But when you talk about what their reality is, you eliminate their excuses. I know I could talk to any mom on here and I can resonate. Yeah, my kids act up. Yeah, they don't want to do their homework. Yeah, they don't want to do their chores. Right. So when I resonate with them about that and talk about that, then they can say, "Man, she's dealing with the same stuff I'm dealing with. Plus, she has 15 kids. If she's doing it, what's my excuse?" They got to.
What's my excuse?
You got to have that awareness,
So I say something all the time, and it's just this year it's definitely reigned true for me. I always tell people success is a thinking man and women's game. If you're not willing to think and accept the defaults of your behaviors, your actions, your attitudes of just life, then you will always be subject to someone else's ability and willingness to think. So always. You will always be subject to it. So, all right. The book is called Think and Grow Rich. It is not called Netflix and Chill and Grow Rich.
Right.
YouTube everything about what I really ultimately want to do and grow rich. Sit back and talk on the phone for 4 hours with somebody else about what I want to do one day when I could have spent them same 4 hours going out and actually doing that thing, right?
Plan. I know that.
Right. Like it's called Think and Grow Rich. The word says, and I'm not here to be preaching to anybody. If you don't believe in the word, that's fine. I just have principles that I live by, right? Like I have principles.
Amen.
They work for me.
Amen.
They work for a lot of people. But it does say that upon this word, I will meditate day and night. That means he has to think about what he's reading, right?
So true. So true.
I think sometimes we make it harder than it has to be because unfortunately, for all of us, I struggle with it too. I struggle sometimes with the fact that, can I really do that?
Right.
Ain't nobody gonna listen to me if I start talking about massive action
Mhm.
and thinking and building a side business. Nobody
Mhm.
who's out there that wants to listen. And the longer you telling yourself that, the more days and the more months and the more years will go by that you will never meet that future self. I always tell people, could you imagine if you had the ultimate date, like the ultimate date?
Mhm.
Whatever your boo thing is, what just the ultimate date. Like if you imagine
Mhm.
they picked you up on a private G5, flew you to Fiji, you got off and your name was written on the runway, and they took you to a private. Like just think that whatever your ultimate date is.
Yeah.
But just imagine if your ultimate date was you.
Mm.
Imagine if you built your life in such a way that you took all out massive action and you were thinking about every move that you made and you really put a plan together. You went and executed, more action, less
Mhm.
talking, and you were working towards that. The
Mhm.
person you are today, there's a future version of you that is
Mhm.
just waiting to meet you.
Yeah.
But the gap between where you are now, a lot of times, and where we
Mhm.
want to go has
Mhm.
everything to do with the action we're willing to take, the
So true.
uncomfortableness we're willing to sit in, the
Mhm.
ability to question myself, right?
Mhm.
Question my default beliefs, question the way I do things, allow someone into my world to coach me. Too many of us
Mhm.
have an idea of a coach of like being in high school. Listen, I'm not here to teach you how to shoot a basketball. America's Supermom is not here to tell you that you like most people think a coach is supposed to just tell you everything to do in every step because that's the way we've been taught.
Yeah.
It's not how coaching works. And when you're an adult,
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
coaching is I'm a guide. You are Luke Skywalker. My
Amen.
name, my name is Yoda.
Mhm.
I'm not doing all the work for you.
So true.
You've got to do the work. America's
So true.
Supermom did not start what she's doing because she's trying to do the work for other parents. She got 15 other ones that she got to guide through this life. But even for
Amen.
them, she can't live their life.
So true. And I
They
love that.
have to live their life.
They got it to do the work. I mean, I totally that's the example I use all the time. If I'm a basketball coach, I'm not going to be on the court playing the game. I mean, who does that? But that's what they
What
expect. It's
sport do
like,
you see the
what's
coach
the
out
point?
there also doing the game? You don't.
Yeah. It's crazy, right? So if they can even get with that and understanding that that's the same thing, they have to do the work. So I
Mhm.
love that. I mean, that is just so true. So many gems and nuggets you have dropped. This has just been an amazing conversation. So I think I'm going to end it with, how do you manage it all? Because you talk about
Wow.
these different pillars of all the different things that you're doing and graduating. Look, I'm just thinking about that. I have one who's graduating next year, but I've been through it I don't know how many times, and every time it's different, but
Yeah.
that in itself, all the expenses and senior pictures and all this other crazy stuff, that's just one thing. But all
Mhm.
these things that you and your wife are doing, how do you manage it all?
So everything we have a personal mission statement. Our personal mission statement is that we want to rescue families from desperate lives.
Mm.
So anything that we put our hands to has to meet that mission. So when I do wellness education, it meets that mission. When I do my side business coaching, it's meeting that mission because I know I started my first side business. I almost made like $200,000 my first year in a side
Wow,
business, working my day job.
that's amazing.
I realized there were other corporate professionals who were just like me, successfully discontent. I realized that, wait a second, some of us are literally sitting in a role today and going, I could go take that next role, but I know if I take that role, what it's going to do to my family.
Mm.
I see how people get treated in that next role, and I don't know if I want to go through all of that. So you know what? I'm going to stay where I am. Or if I make a lateral move, that ain't really going to help me none because that ain't changing anything. But I know I need to make extra money.
Hmm.
Or we're just so comfortable, we're oblivious to the fact that our comfort has become our greatest crutch, and we're not living. We're just aimlessly getting up every day and
Mm-hmm.
going through life. We're looking forward to the weekend and hating Monday on Sunday. What kind
Yeah.
of life is that? So what
Yeah.
I do is I learned that teaching people how to build, there was other corporate professionals like me that like I teach them how to grow their side business, because I realized you show up 10 times better at work when you learn how to manage your time outside of work. You ask
Amen.
a whole lot more better questions when you run your own business. And then when you show up at work, that will start to in turn you show up differently in the meetings,
So
right?
true. Yeah.
So I realized there was a pattern there. There was an opportunity to coach people and help people understand like there's a way you can live fulfilled. And it's okay if you don't want that next jump.
Mm.
Because I'm gonna be honest with y'all. Sometimes the next jump is, we think it's about the more money. It's
Right.
not the more money. You're not gonna be happy.
Mm-hmm.
You will make that next jump, and there will be even more taxes taken out of your check.
Yeah.
There will be even more responsibility, and there will be even more subtle changes and compromises that you don't want.
Mm-hmm.
I give this example all the time. The first time you answer an email after work hours, you have
Mm-hmm.
just told that person it's okay for them to send it to you,
Yeah. No boundaries.
because you have no boundaries. But because you got that title now, you think I got to. See how simple that is? It's a small, subtle
Right.
thing, but it leads to even more. So now you did it one night, Tuesday night at 8 p.m., you answer the email.
Mm-hmm.
But now all of a sudden it turns into the weekend, and while you're supposed to be sitting there watching your baby girl kick that soccer ball and she just scored, you missed it because you got your laptop open or you on your
Mm-hmm.
phone trying to answer stuff about Monday,
Yeah.
because you let it be okay.
Mm-hmm. I love, you know what? And that example is great because it's self-inflicted. I did an
Self-inflicted.
interview. I did an interview with someone, and I'm just of Christian faith, but he said sin is self-inflicted nonsense, right? So we want to pray to God about all this stuff, but we do it to ourselves,
You do it to
you know,
ourselves every day of
no
the week.
boundaries. Yeah.
No
Been
boundaries.
there, done that. Yeah.
And when we set boundaries, what we get worried about is how many people won't fit in them boundaries. And what you forget,
Right.
it's okay that they don't fit. What matters more is, are you healthy?
So true.
Are you present
And
with your children?
so
There's
true.
last piece I'll mention here, because this stuff really it's important to me because I see it happen in workplace culture all the time.
Yeah.
So my wife and I, my wife knows I am she is the love of my life. She is the reason why I've learned so much. My wife was an entrepreneur for 13 years before I ever became one. Like, she didn't
Okay.
push me that way. Oh, I tell people all the time, when you meet my wife, she is super dope. She's by far one of the most incredible people. Not because I married her, but I watched her from afar before I even approached this woman. Like, this woman is freaking incredible. But you know what's interesting? What I
Mhm.
found interesting is a lot of people, you start having children, and then you get to middle school and high school, and demands of their life starts picking up, right?
Yeah.
And my pastor said something one day. This is like 8, 9 years ago now, and I never forgot it. He said he's counseled thousands of people right before divorce. Some of them still go through it, some of them still don't. He said, but you know, the one thing I realized is that the thing that they're arguing about now before they sign is something that started a long time ago. And he calls it
Mhm.
the slow drip. He said it's like having a leaky faucet. You know there's a leak, but you just don't fix it because you're like, it's small. And then
Mhm.
all of a sudden you got a water main break 2 years later. So now when the children leave the house, you two don't know each other because you've been separating the entire time.
Mhm.
And you didn't fight to keep you and your spouse good. You
Mhm.
fought for uh selfish reasons. You fought for because you thought, well, I got this job, I gotta keep it up. You started making all these assumptions. You started allowing that job to creep into your personal life. You didn't set
Mhm.
boundaries. And then all of a sudden you look up, and now the thing that's actually important is fragile.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I'm just trying to get people to realize that's how you end up with a desperate life. You could be making a lot of money and very fragile,
Yeah.
very
So true.
fragile,
I mean,
because
and that
you didn't do the work, right?
yeah,
Small things, not the big stuff, small
right.
stuff.
Mhm. That is so true. I mean, you have been dropping some gems. I hope people were taking notes, but you're actually going to be back again, I think, on another episode.
Am I? Oh wow,
Yeah,
that'd be an honor. That'd be an honor.
because this I'm telling you, this conversation is so well needed, and even now, it's Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yes,
And a
yes.
lot of times, we really just go through the motions. I mean, that was my story. I was in 13 years of depression on
Mm,
autopilot, not really even thinking, is this serving
mhm.
me? Am I thinking right? Whatever. And so people are at this space now, and so much, as we've seen earlier, as we opened the episode up with, the unfortunate events that happened in the school in Texas, that
Yes.
a lot of people are suffering with that mental aspect. So, it
Mhm.
starts with our thinking and our mindset. So, my last question would be, what are some things that you do in your routine? You do work with other people, you're pouring into them, you're pouring into your kids, your spouse, and, even team members, that are helping you with all the different businesses that you're managing. So how do what advice would you give them about making sure that they stay in the right mindset to show up?
Find something to do that is totally unrelated to what you actually get paid for. Period.
Mm,
Find something to do that is totally unrelated to what you get paid for and go do that. I don't care what it if you like to knit quilts, knit boo.
mhm.
Get to knitting. If you like I don't care what it is, but you got to
Mhm,
find something that disconnects you from just the chaos of just just regular everyday stuff, right? Like you got to
mhm,
find something. For me, it's I've rediscovered my love for reading.
mhm,
It's time with my wife, so we literally get away. So I just told her last night, I was like, babe, date night. What do you want to do? I saw it. There was a movie that's out, and I was like, babe, do you want to go see it? She's like, yes, I do want to go see it. All right, babe, you tell me the date, and that's what we're gonna do, right? We take many
mhm,
vacations, many,
mhm.
like literally 2-3 days away and then come back, right?
That's good.
We do that. I'll sit here and play video games. I love the NBA basketball, so I'll go to a game, watch a couple games, whatever. But I find something, and I don't compromise on my getaway ever.
Mm, mm,
I'm not compromising
mhm,
because, again, if you don't set Malcolm Gladwell's book Boundaries, go read it.
mhm.
Just
That's it.
just go read the book, right? But if you
Mhm.
start compromising, then everybody feels like, well, I can just, whatever, right? Like,
Yeah,
and my wife and I have our own boundaries for each other. When
yeah.
there's certain shows that my wife loves to watch, like she's a Dateline girl, and she loves NCIS, right?
Mhm,
So when we get to the end of the day, like a Friday or something, I tell my boys, leave mama alone. Let her
mhm,
sit and enjoy her time. You don't need anything right
mhm.
now. You grown. Go get what you want. You ain't got to ask her 18 million questions. Go. Let her be, right? I
Mhm.
protect her time because that's her time. She needs that, right?
Yeah,
Whatever she want to do at that time, that's on her, right?
yeah.
But you gotta have that time that is totally
Mhm.
disconnected from the stuff that you do to make money.
I love that. That's great advice. All right. Well, what are the best ways for everybody to get a hold of you? And then any final thoughts that you want to leave with us today?
Yeah, so I'm easy to find on LinkedIn, the Christopher Williams, on Instagram, the Christopher Williams. And also, I host something for those of you who are successful corporate professionals who are looking to grow your side business. I actually have a challenge. I do a 5-day challenge called Grow Your Side Business Challenge. It is kicking off. The next one is June 20th, the week of June 20th. Now, it's 5 days, and you might be going, Heck, that's a lot. No, it's actually 1 hour every single day. You can
Mm.
register now. Go to thesidebusinesschallenge.com, and you can register. General admission ticket is $97. You get access to the Facebook group. You get access to the everyday the training. And then for those of you who want to do a better experience, we have a VIP experience, which I absolutely love doing. You get to actually ask me questions an hour before the challenge. So if you got a specific question about your side business, if you got a particular question about showing up better at your corporate job, whatever it is, it's your time, right? So we have a really cool time there. But I share 1 hour every single day, Monday through Friday. Take out an hour of your time to invest into your life. And so I teach people how to be able to grow their side businesses successfully, right?
Love that.
So I do that, and it's a joy of mine. I absolutely love it because I know that most of us are not showing up. We could show up probably about 20% better at work if we had something outside of work that really was helping us grow and mature. And there's nothing like being a professional and having a side business and taking the same skills and practices that you leverage today and learning how the marketplace can probably pay you 3 times as much as you're making, no matter what it is that you make in your corporate profession. So I teach people how to be able to do that the right way, right? Teach them how to really find a fulfilled life, because I think that's what we're all after at the end of the day.
Love that. Well, this has just been wonderful. I'm so glad that I happened to stumble upon you on that Instagram. I forgot what you guys were talking about. I think it was reading or something.
Oh,
Some
oh my God. Yeah. When I rediscovered my love for reading, and it was from my business coach. I mean,
Mhm.
I I'm a grown man, and I never questioned I didn't question myself about my reading habits. And I was talking to my business coach, and he said to me, hey, and matter of fact, I just interviewed him. So if you go to YouTube right now and search
Mhm.
TWAC, you'll find my channel. Just did a big interview. He was gracious with his time. But I was talking about the fact that, I first met him and he hit me square between the eyes, because he was like, listen, you saying you want to grow your business, you want to grow as a person, but Chris, you don't read. And he's like, it's not that you don't read, you're reading the wrong way. I was like, what do
Right.
you mean? He said, most people, like, I'm reading this book right now. It's called The Laws of
My
Human Nature.
daughter has that book. Yeah,
It
she
is
has
a
that.
okay. So I'm into neuroscience and human behavior and psychology. So if
Uh-huh.
you're into that kind of stuff, you'll love this kind of book, right?
Mhm.
But it's a great book. Well, he says most people will pick up this book and read it from cover to cover and then go, oh, I read it. But if I asked you 2 weeks from now what was in it, you wouldn't know. You
Mhm.
can't, you don't know. You're reading
Mhm.
wrong. You're reading from completion, because that's how you were taught in elementary school.
Mhm.
As an adult, we have to learn to read for reference.
Mhm.
You got to learn to read based on where you are right now. So
Yeah.
what you got to learn to do is pick up that same book, and instead of highlighting something, grab a sticky note and write down the thing that it says to you in the moment. What are you going to do as a result? What did it mean for you to take action on that? There's a section here I'm reading on about the psychology of attitude, right?
Mhm.
So I'm making notes about attitude for Chris Williams.
Mhm.
And as I do that, now I have other books on psychology that I'm reading. So now
Mhm.
I don't read to completion. I don't complete an entire book. All
Mhm.
of my books are reference material.
Mhm.
So for those of make it practical. If you are struggling at home with your spouse and you've never read the 5 love languages, you should pick up that book, and it should be a reference tool for you. And then you should go find other
Mhm.
relationship books, right? And I may skim through a chapter and go, oh, that chapter sounds interesting, and I may just read that chapter.
Mhm.
But I learned to read for reference so that it will be relevant to my current world and reality right now.
So true. I mean, that is
Stop
me.
reading for entertainment and read to grow.
Yeah,
So,
because it's
you know,
just like having a mastermind. I think we think that we've been conditioned to just take in information
that's
and
it.
not really process it, not critically
Mm-mm,
think about it.
mm-mm.
So I love the fact that I read. It's like I'm taking all kind of notes. I mean, I would be writing down 1,000 quotes that you've already said if I wasn't doing this interview. You know what I mean? Because I just think it's so important. It just brings up, new ideas. God is a creator, and we miss out on
100%.
the ability to create because we're not intentional. We're not present. You have a
Hoo-wee.
conversation.
Okay, see you playing around. Girl, you preaching, you playing around. So let's be honest. Okay, for those of you who are wondering what she just said, I want you to go read Genesis chapter 1.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to see the first things that God did. He created.
Mm-hmm.
And then he got to us, and instead of just creating, he described how his creation would be made.
Mm-hmm.
Father, Son, Spirit. Hey, you know, we're going to come together. Let's make
Mm-hmm.
something, but we're going to make it in our image,
Mm-hmm.
in our likeness.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly enough, in sports, what is that new law that just passed? Name, image, and likeness. That's a whole. I can go deep on that, but we ain't gonna do that
Oh,
right now.
okay. I didn't hear that. I don't watch the
So,
news,
but
so yeah.
oh yeah, that's a whole. So think about this for a second.
Mm-hmm.
He took his time, made us, but he gave a description of what that actually meant.
Mm-hmm.
Then, to show off in his brilliant ability, when he breathed life into us, what did he say? Hey, you see all that stuff over there? I want you to name every last one of them. Y'all look at this. Check this out, angels. Watch this. Go do it. What he did was he created a creator.
That's good right there.
And
Mm-hmm.
he's been showing off his gifts inside of us since the dawn of time. But
Amen.
yet some of us will choose not to leverage that God-given ability. And by the way, creation doesn't mean you're an inventor.
Right.
I've seen my
Everything is
mama,
his anyway.
everything. I've seen my mama create dishes out of stuff that I didn't even know was in the kitchen.
Amen. Amen.
I've seen people create, I've seen children cram for a test and create an A when they were struggling
Mm-hmm.
in a class. I've seen myself, when I didn't have a job, got laid off twice from corporate America, create ways to make and earn money. My point is the creator gene is in
Mm-hmm.
all of us. You are a
Amen.
child of God.
Mm-hmm.
Do not continue, if you have been, suppressing that side of you because you don't want whatever story you've told yourself about what other people are going to think about you. You're God's
Mm-hmm.
kid. You're supposed to create.
Yeah.
That's like he gave that to us freely.
So true. Yeah.
By the way, just a side note, notice Jesus didn't have to die first before he gave that to you. I'm just saying,
Good
y'all,
stuff.
like,
That's good
so
stuff.
that's why you see you when I went somewhere.
Hey,
See, I just
I'm telling you, see what I'm saying? That's the good stuff. But you know what? It's active listening. That's another thing. I love having these conversations and
yeah.
not having them scripted because you just never know where God's going to take you, but we got to listen. It's all about being present. So
Yeah.
I'm really
Yeah.
about
It's
that.
and I'm so grateful to you because I've got the chance to watch you over the last few months and what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to encourage you and say, please don't stop. I don't care that not every mother who pays you attention is reaching out. They probably just, afraid and just think maybe you'll never read their message. But I would say to everybody watching this right now, please send America's Supermom a message. She'll read it. I
Mm-hmm.
promise you she sees it. She might not be able to get back to you in the moment, but she
Right.
does see it. Let her know that you are impacted by her starting this platform.
Mm-hmm.
That as a mother, she has helped you in whatever way it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think sometimes we used to ask this question back in the day, like, well, who's coaching the leader, right? If the leader's doing all of this pouring out and giving, like, well, who's helping that person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times they're fed by the people that actually serve them, right? And so
So
I just
true.
want to say thank you for serving the way you do with your gifts and talents. And I know that as a result, God smiles on you and that you haven't even touched half of what you're gonna find. I'm just waiting for you and Oprah to show up. When you and Oprah
You
somewhere
see?
sitting down in her Indiana ranch, then I'm gonna say, I knew her. Like, I knew her.
You
I was
see what I'm
on her
saying?
show.
Look, I didn't even tell you about Oprah, but that's on my goal, because I want to collaborate with her. Now, we ain't
There
talking
you
about just
go.
meeting her. Look, you got an audience and I got a story. Let's figure out
Let's
how we
get
can
it.
help people. Okay.
That's right.
So you
That's right.
see, God is good. Look, he gives you them little breadcrumbs if you paying attention.
There it is. There it is. Well,
So
we
this has
appreciate you
just
very
been
much.
thank you so much. And I have really enjoyed this conversation. And I encourage all of you who are listening to reach out to Christopher on any of his social media platforms. If you have any questions, put them here in the comments. We would love for you to get connected with him because he is definitely these nuggets that he was dropping. I mean, there's many more. Okay. I've seen him on a lot of different platforms and just so easy with it, but I think it's back to what you said about vulnerability. When we're
Yeah,
comfortable
100%.
with what we can do, our strengths, and knowing what our weaknesses are and how to communicate. You also mentioned something earlier about, being able to make it through some of these conflict resolutions, right?
Yes. Yeah.
In a way that's positive to where,
Mhm.
we can still build each other up in the process. So
Most people only know conflict. They never worked on the other half of the coin. There's
that's
no
it.
coin that you ever bought that was one-sided. There's no piece of paper that's one-sided. There's nothing that you've ever seen that's one-sided. If there's conflict, I guarantee you there's resolution. Question is, are you willing to go there? That's all.
See what I'm
That's
saying?
all that is.
I mean, that was a mic drop. So
It's
thank you
true.
so much for
You're
coming
very
on
welcome.
today. Yeah, I think you're scheduled for a LinkedIn live, but if not, we definitely
Okay.
need to have you come back. Okay.
Yeah,
Next time.
absolutely, absolutely. And I need to have you on my show because I got to get on. I looked at your calendar and it's like way out, and I was like, okay, I understand, but somehow I got to get you on the show. I don't know when, where, but we got to get
Absolutely.
you on the show. I think what you're doing is incredible, and I always say like I think the story of the person is much more important than the results that they provide to other people,
Amen.
because that's the reason why you can provide results. And there's so many things that you just done and what I've seen. I'm just like, why is this woman not on the Today Show yet? Like, what is
Praise
going on?
God.
Like,
Praise
man.
God. You
So
know,
we'll
God,
make it happen,
look,
though. I
it,
promise we'll
it's
make it happen.
just look, it's out there waiting. We just haven't got to that point yet. You know what
That's
I'm
right.
saying? It's that
Right.
part of that future self. So we
Yep.
just got to make sure that we stay in line with that. That's another thing. I've learned about
Absolutely.
getting ahead of God, and it is some place I don't want to be back again.
That's right. 100%. That's right.
So, well, thanks again, Chris, for coming on. And we want to thank you guys so much for watching. Again, if you have any questions, put them in the comments. And we will see all of you guys on the next episode. Bye for now.